the difference in internalizing something and hearing something, the difference is massive.
Yeah.
So when I go to visit a company and do a lean tour, when I go to Japan with Paul Akers, I'm going there to internalize. I'm not
Mm.
going there for fun or just to learn or kind of to have a nice trip. I'm going there with the absolute focus and trying to internalize. So the goal, my goal for people reading the book is to internalize the book, not just read it, but to internalize it. And I think the best way to internalize the book is to read it once right through first. Just read it. Just
Hmm.
get the first pass over you. Then take it chapter by chapter, page by page, and spend 1 week on a chapter. If you're not struggling and you haven't got a question, I don't think you're doing it enough. You're not trying hard enough. Because
Mm.
I have 100 questions that I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm so deep into this that I'm on the phone to Paul Akers, I'm talking to Alex Ramirez, I'm talking to another mentor I have, Brendan McGurgan. I'm like, well, what do I do in this case? So if you don't have really hard hitting questions, I'm kind of find that you're not doing it intensely enough. And I would just challenge you to absolutely bring your father and your brother in and say, there's this thing called lean. It's going to transform our business. We're going to be the best lean example in Australia. Right? You're Australia, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
We're going to be
yeah.
the best example of lean in Australia. I because when we started lean, I set a goal and I only told two people this goal. The number one was my mother, and the second person was my wife. I told two people this goal, and I didn't share it for years. And I said, we're going to do this thing called lean. Everybody's telling me it won't work, but I'm going to do it to the point where the Japanese want to come and see our factory. This was when we were a mess, when we were working on the floor and workbenches, when our factory was dirty, when our factory was dark, when our people weren't engaged, when everybody laughed at lean. Oh, that'll disappear in 3 months. I set a goal that I wanted to be good enough that the Japanese would come and see our factory, and it happened 2 years. I could walk out of my office right now, get into my car, and go to Australia for 2 months, and this place would run seamlessly, but not only run, it would get better. I would come back in 2 months and I would find like 300 things that are better.
Mm.
And that is only possible through teaching and training. That doesn't happen by accident. It's
Mm.
only possible by setting aside time every day to teach and train your people so that you can walk away. Because let's face it, that's what we all want. We all want to go on holidays and not have to answer any calls. We all want to go on a family holiday and get no emails, like zero emails.
Suppose if I'm going to put any question to you, are there any particular people that you have had in your business where you've gone, I've seen them grow as a person, and that has given me the motivation to continue?
Yes, absolutely. And his name is Sean. We had our first book club this morning on the Lean Made Simple book. And Sean was here before Lean. And I knew what Sean was going to say. So I picked Sean out and I said, Sean, can you tell your story? And Sean told the
Yeah.
story in front of everybody at our book club today. Sean has been here 11 years. So he was here about a year before Lean. When Sean was here, he had his hood up. He had no confidence. He couldn't speak to anybody. He ate his lunch in his car outside, really quiet, shy 18-year-old. And through nothing else other than lean and growing and developing him through morning meetings and challenging himself on coming up with improvements, he is an absolutely different person. So I asked Sean at the meeting today, Paul or Sean, what's your biggest improvement since we started lean? And he said, the biggest improvement since we started lean is me. And everybody, we all give him a round of applause because it is so true. That the change in Sean is just unbelievable. And that's the buzz that I'm so glad you asked that question. That's the buzz that I get out of this.
I suppose one of the questions is, as a leader and as our leadership team, how do we get more leaders in our company? How do we get the guys on the warehouse floor to become leaders and great leaders and empower themselves? They're obviously, as you said, you've got the guys with their hoodies on and they get the hoodie off and actually really get themselves outside their comfort zone by communicating and running a morning meeting. But how do they become a leader and really get themselves the next level?
Yep. Good question. I think the first thing is that not everybody is going to be a leader. And the sooner people realize that, the better. Everybody's at different levels, and they have the potential to, they maybe just don't realize it. But and I learned this from Chuck at In the Ditch Towing Products. I went to see his factory about 6 years ago. And back then I was trying to get everybody to the one level, get everybody excited about lean, get everybody doing improvements every day. And I was driving my head crazy. And Chuck explained it to me. He kind of pulled me to the side and he said, imagine all your people swimming in a big swimming pool, 50 people all swimming, and all you're doing is walking up and down. You're just walking up and down the side of the pool. And every so often somebody will look up and they'll reach their hand up and they'll look for help. And that's the person that you help. For us to try and help everybody that's swimming in the swimming pool, it's not feasible. It's not possible. We're going to drive ourselves crazy. So what I do, and I think we talked about this a bit at the summit, Edwin, I focus on 5 people. I have 4 or 5 people that I spend all my time with, because I was spending my time with 40, 50 people. And I was going from him to her to him to send him a video and here, have a look at this podcast. And you should think about this improvement. In my head, it wasn't feasible. It wasn't possible. So I spent my time with 5 people. So in your company, you might say you're going to spend your time with 1 person or 2 people or 3 people and get them so excited, create like an inner circle, create like a lean leaders group and make them so passionate about lean that it then filters to everybody else. So for you to try and get everybody to the same level, you will just drive yourself crazy. The relief that I got once I found that out, once I realized, okay, not everybody's gonna be as excited about this as me. That's okay. Chuck really made me think about that, and I came back home from that trip from Idaho and changed my whole way of thinking. And it was just like this weight lifted off my shoulders, because I felt this big burden that I had to get everybody to the one level and get them all excited about lean. And I realized I didn't have to do that. And once I done that, I focused on 5 people and they fed it down to the next. So I was going to put this sentence in the book and I left it out because I didn't want to go too deep. But if you've ever heard of the law of cause and effect, or the law of polarity, if something's really difficult, then the result is going to be equally as good. If you go to the gym and you kind of do a workout that's okay, you don't really push yourself. You lift light weights. Instead of doing 10 reps, you do 8 reps. Instead of doing 10,000 steps a day, you do 8,000 steps a day. If that's the level you're at, that's the results you're going to get.
Right.
But if you go to the gym and you say, I'm going to do a personal best, I'm going to lift more than I lifted last week, I'm not going to do 10,000 steps, I'm going to do 12,000 steps. The results are shown in physical form. You will get results. And lean is the exact same. If lean isn't difficult, then you're not doing it right. You're not intense enough about it. If lean isn't hard work, then you're not trying hard. You're not going to get the results. Lean should be difficult. The more difficult, the better. Because if it's difficult, if you're really thinking, how am I going to motivate our people today? What's our next improvement? How can I increase engagement? You have to be coming up. You have to feel the pain if you want to get the huge results.